a QR code if anyone does want to scan. That will take you to the main sort of like grad scheme site. Um, so it's 2 or 3 years depending on your pathway, and then you end hopefully with receiving your accreditation. You've got what else is there? Yeah, there's two routes for this course planning specifically. You have two routes. There's DAPC and then the LAPC. LAPC basically means you went off, did the masters, a planning masters yourself, because you need an accredited degree, and then came back and then did the grad scheme that way. Or there's the degree apprenticeship route where you are sponsored through your masters. So I was sponsored through a London South Bank masters, and then Louisa is currently at Westminster. So it just depends on what year you start, which university you go to. A key thing to underline for this one is that due to recent changes in apprenticeship funding, there it used to be that it was paid for by the government. That's now been cancelled if you are over 21, which frustratingly the majority of graduates are, and it's frustrating for planning. That doesn't mean that degree apprenticeship don't exist anymore. It just means that it is paid for by the company, and you've got to really sell yourself. But that is not to discourage anyone in the slightest. I do really encourage going for the degree apprenticeship route, just because you get the real benefit of you work full time, you earn money. That's why we work, and you get like that really hands-on experience that is then complemented really nicely with then going into university once a week and like learning the background skill and knowledge. It's hard work, I won't lie. It's you've got to manage your time really well, but after 3 years, you end up with full masters, fully accredited. Yeah, I strongly recommend it. So they opened in September. So they just closed for this year. I think they literally closed last week, and they reopened again in September 2026. Board summer scheme. That's a full. I think it's now a 6 week the start date. The 6 week taster through the summer holidays. You basically it's paid internship including holiday, with the office that you get employed at, and you are treated like a member of the team. So for example, our Southampton grad Phoebe, this year she did the summer scheme, and she was so fantastic that we carried on. We then hired her as a grad straight after. So that's another thing about summer schemes. Do you get them and you really impress who you're working with, there is that opportunity to then actually continue in the team. They open March-ish. I don't know the exact dates, but if you're interested, keep an eye out for that. Sandwich placements. So these ones are really office specific, but they do exist. I know Cardiff office is really big on the sandwich placement. But that's a 1 year placement. It's usually done with the year in industry degrees. If you're on one of those. And yeah, it's subject to office availability, but simple thing. You're treated as a full member of the team, and you go from there. But yeah, I think these slides will be circulated anyway, so that QR code will be there if anyone needs it. And you?
So this is kind of like the Savills process, but you'll find it's really similar to other firms if you're applying elsewhere as well. So in September, October, you do the online application. All you really need is your CV, and then open a load of questions like why you're interested in planning. For me, this was actually quite a surface level reason. I didn't actually know that much about planning when I applied. I was literally just saying, like, I'm really interested in it. I think it can make a difference, and that was enough to get me through to the behavioural assessment. So this is literally just seeing, will you work well in a team? What are you interested in? What sort of role will you take in their firm? Again, this wasn't something that you really have to think about too much. Like, don't overthink it. Be honest. I think that's the best way to do it. And then the assessment centre. So this was broken down into about 4 different sections. So you go in, you're doing a bit of networking. The networking does matter. They are trying to see who talks to the most people, who are people gravitating towards. That definitely matters. And then it was like a panel, not a debate, but so there were 3 of us. We were the developers. We were given a scheme, we had to look at the floor plans, get to grips with it, and then they were the council, the other 3 people at the assessment centre. And while they're trying to say we don't like your development because of X, Y, Z, we were trying to say, no, this is a positive thing. So it wasn't a very pretty building. Those were obviously like the points given to people in the council. Like the massing was all a bit wrong. It was too tall for the area. But then we were trying to say, it's a family sized house. This is good. They're going to be in the community for a long time as opposed to, say, a 1 bed apartment. So you're just kind of trying to see the positives. If you are on that side, I would say don't let yourself sit back and go, oh, it's on for a week. We'll change everything. Really try and do see the positives if you're on that side. And then again, networking at lunch when the directors will come down. So you won't necessarily know that they're a director, but they'll be given names. So if people come up to you and approach you, definitely pay attention to them because they might have been told, go look for Louisa. Look for her and tell us what you think about her. So really think about who's approaching you. Take the time to get to know them. Also, don't just talk about planning because here, like my biggest point I'd say on this day is just bring your personality across. Because when I asked for feedback for this talk, like why did you let me in? All they said was personality is the only thing that will set you apart. Because realistically, everyone's probably done similar work experience or did geography. Like what they really want to see is, are you just someone that they want to talk to every day, in their office? So I would just say be yourself in that respect. And then there is a interview at the end where you do a really quick presentation. My one was just something that you're proud of. And personally, all I spoke about was kind of my dissertation, but also how I was actually proud of getting to grips with how women felt in a certain area. And I went sort of just on that more personal route of what was important to me and what made me proud in that respect. And then the rest of the interview, just relate to my like top tips that I think I did. Make sure that you do know real estate trends. So for me, this was literally a matter of downloading the recent RICS report, which is the Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors. Download that. I put it into AI because I didn't understand the language yet. I tried to read it, I couldn't actually understand it. And then I just learned the basic trends, like, okay, what's going up, what's going down. This is something I can talk about on a surface level. But in the interview, they are only going to ask surface level questions because they know that you don't know anything yet. It's just showing I've taken the time to look at this and I understand it to a degree. What else have I said? Oh, so some firms like Savills, they have like a Savills CV template. It's a really easy thing, but one thing I did was just change my CV into their template. Just that if they look at it from afar, they'll think, okay, she's been on the website. It's like an easy thing to change. It only takes like 10 minutes. And I would say that you really should have work experience. That's one thing that's kind of a given, but you can just get it in your gap year, like me. If you just want to focus on third year, that's absolutely fine. And yeah, get to know the other applicants. So I applied to 12 planning firms in total and I only had one other interview day. And I met a lot of the same people at Savills. And in that kind of debate that I told you about, one of the other now grads, he was on the other side. So being able to say his name and be like, oh, Ben, that was a really good point, showing that I've engaged with him as a person. I don't know. Maybe that's something that they looked at and they were like, that's good. Just remembering those names. And also, these people will have insight as well. So, a lot of the ones who did the masters, they were the ones that told me in the networking, be careful if who comes up to you because that might be your director. So, just getting to know other grads is really useful as well. Um, and on the I applied to 12 different firms. So, this was just like my list of where I applied. You can see most of them I didn't even bother like crossing off because I just never heard back from a lot of them. The only ones I had interviews at were this one and this one. This one obviously didn't get. The rest of them I just didn't even fill in. So you do have to be kind of very aware that rejection is a big part of this process. And like that's fine. It doesn't mean that you're not going to get anything. It's not something to get hung over. Is what I'm saying.
And so my top tips are very similar, to be fair. So when I was writing this, I was trying to think about what I'd back, which feels sadly a long time ago when I was sitting in your guys' places, what I would have benefited hearing. I don't you don't have to take it off, but I'll give you my 5 pence. Firstly, obviously we're here talking about planning, but the main thing is like if you choose what interests you, no matter what it is, whether it's down to like a hobby, down to like a sport, down to a job, down to like what you're interested in terms of writing your dissertation or writing like an essay, you're going to be more invested in it and it's going to come across as more authentic. So for example, planning, I was slightly different than Louis that I would dabble with nothing basically. My plan was that I was going to only apply to Savills. If I didn't get Savills, I'd go away, do my masters myself, and then come back and apply to Savills again. And that came through. I hope I did. I got the job. Came through in my interview. I was so interested in Savills and so interested in planning that that's what I wanted. To do. Attend the employment talks and career fairs. You guys are here, so you take that one off. But I came across Savills as an option in a career talk like this, and it was literally like a little box, like the logo, like Savills. and then town planning written underneath it. And at the time I was doing my dissertation, I was interested in, the built environment, and that was enough to make me go on Google and look into the grad scheme and then apply and go from there. So this is slightly controversial, I think, but my opinion is that London isn't the be all and end all. A lot of people, I included, was like, right, I'm going to finish university and then going to move to London. That's what I do. That's what my parents did. That's what my friends are doing. That's what I'm doing. I applied for the London grad position, so Louisa's, and I just spoke about Southampton the entire time. All I did was talk about Southampton because that's what I knew. That's where I was living, that's where my dissertation was. And so at the end of my final interview, I was actually told that they didn't want me for London, they wanted me for Southampton because they could tell just the way I was speaking, it was a better fit. And also that sort of wider piece of like, I feel like I'm really a part of changing this region and making change to this region. Whereas personally for me, no, that's Louisa. Personally for me, I wouldn't have felt that in London as much. So that's something to bear in mind, is that, are you looking at London, or do you want to look at London because you actually think you'd suit there, or because that's what everyone does? And finally, there's no rush. Take your time. Like, there is no rush at all. Whether you get a grad scheme this year, whether you get a job this year, whether you do whatever, get a year into employment or whatever it is. No one cares. Like, really, no one cares. It feels like there's a massive rush and that the world's going to end if you don't get a grad scheme. It's okay. I similar to Louisa, I didn't pay any attention to grad schemes in my third year. I finished, I went and I was a estate agent because I needed a job and I wanted to work in property. And then I decided what I wanted to do. I think I've done like 3 3 gap years so far, just because I wasn't in a rush. But it has meant that I've ended up in a job that I do really love and enjoy, and I can see a career progressing from it. So yeah, that's my full piece. So thank you so much for listening to us. Any questions?
What would you say separates Savills from a Frank or JLL?
I've heard from other grads who got into Geraldine, which is now Newmark, but I applied, and it's a less sociable culture. So at Savills, in my first week, I was taken up to Birmingham for this conference that I think Becky was in as well.
I sadly wasn't. I was on
Oh
holiday.
yeah, Becky nearly
I
attended.
was very sad I wasn't attending it. Yeah.
But it was this huge golf course hotel, and I literally just got there because I didn't know anything about planning, but they still put the money into us to give us a room, kind of like unlimited drinks all night, just like the fun stuff essentially. And week after that, my team took us out for drinks, and then a week after that, we did pasta baking in London. It's just like never ending kind of. It sounds like cringy, like team building, but I do appreciate the fact that they take the time to get to know me in a less strict atmosphere. Whereas at Newmark, where this other grad was, I was really sad I didn't get that one because it was a smaller firm, and I thought I don't want to be a big firm. But they have no money. They like this American firms come in essentially just cut any like team spending, like no Christmas party, anything. And I know that's not like everything, like in the profit sense, that's better. But I feel like taking the time to get to know your colleagues, like, oh, what are you doing for Halloween or whatever, it's a bit nicer.
Yeah, I would build on that in this like more sort of boring sense that Savills really invests in its graduates. A lot of the board members or who sit on like the planning board or even like the exec board did start off as grads. There's a really clear network or really clear progression from the day that you start as a grad all through to the end of your masters, for an example, then to your ABC. You then get put on a next steps program, and they really set out like what they're going to invest in you and how you're then going to actually grow your career with Savills. It's like a lot of people don't want to be regional because they see regional as like pushing your hold yourself in one area. However, I know that I have a clear career progression with Savills that I can invest in, and they'll invest back in me. So I'd say, to answer your question, is they really invest in their people, whether that's social, career, skills, they take the time.
And same like moving around offices. Like I applied to all Savills offices. I just got given London, but I already know that I think I prefer to live in a more rural area, literally just for the reasons that Becky's listed. So I know because Savills has loads of offices, I can realistically not pick and choose one, but I'll have more flexibility in thinking, oh, maybe I'm going to move to Edinburgh or New Zealand, I think, or just like anywhere. And I know that there is that flexibility.
Thank you.
All right.